Morning, everybody. This is Lou Weiss with my co-host Tim Grady, who got out of his sickbed to do this show. We are interviewing today Liron Ben-Horin, who is the, I presume, president, of OneLayer. And OneLayer is in Tel Aviv, Israel, and Liron is in Tel Aviv. And it's wonderful to have you here. And it's really amazing the technology that we could have a one-on-one conversation with somebody in Israel, and Tim, who's in Georgia, can't get his virtual background up. So maybe it has something to do with all the windstorms and tornadoes in Georgia over the last week or so. It just blew your background away. But green and yellow kind of works.
Yeah, it works. At least I didn't wear a green jacket.
I don't know. Then it would just blend in and all we'd see is your face. So I'm not recommending that we do the green and yellow either as a regular background. What do you think, Liron?
Yeah,
Yes or no?
good to me. I love it.
Oh, you love it. Okay. That's why you have a white background. Okay, Liron, what time is it there now? At 4 o'clock?
4:30. 4 o'clock.
4:30 in the afternoon.
Indeed.
Okay. All right, Liron, give us a little insight into OneLayer. What's it all about?
Sure thing, I'll be happy to. So first thing, thank you guys for having me here today. Happy to be here. I'm here representing OneLayer. My name is Liron, and OneLayer is a company that specializes in providing security solutions for private 5G networks. I think we'll spend the majority of today discussing what 5G networks are and how exactly they benefit industries like manufacturing, what use cases they can allow for, how are they changing the industry and transforming it. Our role in this ecosystem is that we come in as a software solution and we allow manufacturing organizations, factories, whatever the case may be, to have better understanding of their assets and to be able to enjoy the highest standard of security.
Well, that's great. Do you have an office or operation here in the United States?
Yeah, so like many other Israeli companies working in the realm of cybersecurity, we have the majority of our R&D stationed here in Israel, where I'm at, but all of the business side is actually in the US, mainly because this is where the market is advancing the fastest. This is where you see the majority of deployments. Most factories already benefiting from the advantages of 5G. It moves at a much faster rate than it does in Europe, Israel, and other places of the world. So definitely most of the business side is in the US.
So before we forget and before we get too far into the show, why don't you give us your URL or email address, whichever you care to do, so the listeners who are here can reach out after they hear your story.
Yeah, sure, would love to. So you can either go to our website, which is onelayer.com, where you can see some more information, or you can contact me directly at liron.bh, the acronyms of my name, at onelayer.com. So these both.
Do that one more time and slower.
Sure thing. So either you go to the URL onelayer.com, probably easiest, or you can email me directly at liron.bh at onelayer.com.
Excellent, excellent. So give us a little insight into how you deal with your a prospective client to demonstrate to them the value of your product.
Yeah, sure thing. So, I think the first thing we have to address is what exactly is 5G, and specifically how is it being implemented in private environments, because this is when the OneLayer product becomes very significant. So where do we see 5G technology today within the manufacturing industry? So we all probably, heard on a high level that 5G should increase productivity, reduce some downtime, maybe improve efficiency. But the question is how so? Like, what is the great benefit that 5G brings in that allows you to really take use of this technology? And the things that it brings to manufacturing that makes it a very relevant technology is that, for starters, it allows you to have a very reliable type of connection. So in an environment where you have tons of devices that are mobile, when you have devices that are part of your R&D, that are critical infrastructure, we want the uptime to be as close as we can to 100%. And one of the challenges we have with wireless technologies is that oftentimes we lose connectivity. I mean, I always use this example how, you can drive your car at 100 miles an hour and be in the middle of a phone call, and you can still maintain connectivity, and this entire process of handovering or moving between cells is seamless to you. But on the other hand, if you're connected to a Wi-Fi link and you move from the basement floor to a ground floor, sometimes you lose connectivity for a few seconds. And this is a result of just a very efficient protocol. So for an environment that requires you to have a high standard of connectivity, 5G is really good because it has all the benefits of cellular. Second thing, it gives you amazing coverage. So, when you have a huge manufacturing facility that have a lot of indoors, and they need to make sure that all the devices can be connected regardless of where they are geographically, then something like 5G can become really effective. And make sure that we can always maintain not only reliable connectivity, but also have the devices connected independent of where they actually are. So these are the main two reasons I would say that we see manufacturing facilities adopting 5G in 2023. And to be fair, the reason it's becoming such a big thing here in the US, and I'll try to give you a little bit more color into the what it looks like today, is because of this word I used early on, private. So 5G, what we used to know about any previous generation of cellular technology is that it was always technology used mainly by the mobile network operators of the world, right? When you think of cellular, you think of Verizon, you think of AT&T, you think of Telefonica. Not necessarily the manufacturing enterprises are the ones to come to mind. But this usage of private and 5G together was actually allowed organizations. It can be enterprises within manufacturing, it can be utilities, it can be airports, tons and tons of verticals to start adopting 5G for their own usage. So what we've actually seen is that now we have organizations enjoying all the benefits from 5G locally, being the full owners of their networks, not having to be dependent on the mobile network operator to enjoy the benefits I described earlier.
So to be more specific,
sure.
What and where is the 5G used within the manufacturing environment?
So there are many different use cases. Let's talk about the application that require us to have reliable connectivity, better coverage, high bandwidth, lower latency. Just to throw out some examples of applications we know of from manufacturing, it can be about applications that require real-time monitoring and control of production processes, right? It can be sensors, be it for movement or for temperature, cameras that record videos, applications that support augmented reality or virtual reality, that assist workers to perform complex tasks. Additionally, I think one fantastic example in manufacturing is anything to do with automated guided vehicles or drones that allow us to perform tasks such as material handling or inspection. So all of these things, they really benefit from good wireless connectivity. And for these reasons, we've seen some innovators within the manufacturing industry starting to implement private 5G locally, so these applications can benefit from the coverage they need, from the latency that is required for them to operate as intended, from better bandwidth. All of these are the main, I would say, incentives for manufacturers to start and implement these networks themselves.
So this is a private 5G network.
Mm-hmm.
Are there cyber or security issues that are resolved as a result of the fact that this is private, or is it still subject to hacking and so on and so forth?
An excellent question, and I think it bridges exactly here the concept of OneLayer and what we do. So let's start with the positive, and there's a lot positive. 5G protocol is efficient and it's a modern protocol. So from a security perspective, there's a lot going for it. For example, encryption. When you look at the RF link, right, and you look at the traffic that's being transmitted from a device to the cell tower, the traffic is much more encrypted when it's being transmitted over 5G. So you enjoy a higher standard of security from that aspect. Moreover, there is an entire concept of authentication that is built into the concept of cellular. Because we all know how in your mobile phone you have a SIM card, right? So in the end of the day, if you want to connect to a Wi-Fi network, a password is sufficient. If you want to connect to a cable network, you connect the cable to the wall. If you want to enjoy a 5G network, you need the actual SIM card to be that someone will provide you with. So for all of these reasons, there is a better, let's say, in authentication and in integrity that is built into the network. Having said that, what is missing, right? Because if that is the case, then we're all good. I think the challenge is that while the protocol itself is more secured, we do not secure networks using protocols alone. When we look at how manufacturing are observing their organization from a security perspective, we see that there are principles that they need to follow, frameworks, security frameworks like zero trust, like a Purdue model, which is a framework in manufacturing that is relevant in order to segment industrial devices from the corporate network and the internet. And this adoption of private cellular, it disrupts these models and these concepts. So the need is to basically allow that you can enjoy all the benefits of private 5G, be it what I described earlier, the coverage, the reliability, but also the encryption and the security elements, but not having to do so without enjoying the same standard of security that you're used to from your operational technology environment. And this is exactly what we're here to bridge. This is the gap that we at OneLayer close. We ensure that you can still segment your network. You can still make sure that you be familiar with the different assets in your network. You can detect anomalies in real time. All of these are security capabilities that have nothing to do with the protocol. They're a necessary step that you put on top of the protocol to make sure that the network as a whole is more secure.
The fact that this is probably a more complex platform than others, the installation time, is that a big deal?
So I think this, to be fair, you're touching one of the main challenges of private 5G at the moment. I would split it to two. Let's address yours first. One is that an organization needs some level of expertise, right? I mean, not everyone is a cellular expert. If you want to install this type of network, oftentimes you need some sort of an integrator to come in that has the cellular expertise that will be able to implement the network in your environment and connect it to the rest of your operational technology networks. And this is critical. So there's still a gap of knowledge here that needs to be corrected. I can say that from our perspective as OneLayer, we understand this gap, and what we're building with our product is allowing, let's say, the security teams that are used to the OT environment and the IT environments, the ones that have nothing to do with cellular, we're building them a product that speaks those language much more than the cellular language, okay? We speak in terms of IP, of MAC addresses, of components and protocols they're familiar with, not necessarily throwing out all these new cellular protocols and you know, components on top of the, I guess, of their existing network. So that's number one. Like you said, lack of expertise is a challenge. You become more dependent on external providers for you to set up the network. Another thing is that because this technology is still emerging and it's evolving as we speak, there is still a little bit what I would call a lack of devices. So I mentioned earlier different test cases, right? But not every single device has a built-in modem in the device itself, right? So we need a lot of gateways. We need a lot of converters. We need means to take legacy traffic that can be traditional IP, convert it to 5G, for example, so that the device can benefit from the network that you built. So there are two steps to it. I guess we need the organizations to become a little bit, to either they'll become more experts or the installation part will become much more easy for them. And secondly, we need to give them more use cases that they can test with these networks.
I have a question, and I don't mean to play can I get you. So sure. It's not a get you question. But if I have a manufacturing plant right here, and I have another manufacturing plant 3 miles away, Can they communicate back and forth under the same 5G protocol and safety and security? Or is each facility have their own 5G protocol and they can't communicate?
It's a good question, and like any good question, there are many answers to it because it very much is dependent on the architecture and the deployment of the network. But I think to go to say the simple answer, you can have one cellular core that will be able to provide connectivity for various sites at once. So you can set the core at a centralized location and make sure that the other factory can also benefit from your existing cores. We see many organizations do it that are spread globally, right? They would have manufacturing facilities at China and in Europe, in the US. And then it's a matter of what benefits them more. Some cases we see where they split this type of traffic. They also do it with their IT and OT environments. It can happen. They would have separate core for each site. In another cases, we see them making the decision to set one local core and have the other sites connected to the same core and enjoy the let's say the advantages of 5G regardless of geography. It's just a matter of whether they deployed the radio side at those facilities all in all, because they need to have the right coverage that will connect them to the core regardless of where the core is.
So the simple answer is yes.
Yes, true. That's the simple answer, I guess. You go that way too.
Tim, I've been sort of dominating this, so jump in anywhere you want. I'm sure you.
Well, I was going to ask a similar question, Lou, and that is, I'm in Georgia. Liron, you're in Tel Aviv. I want to put in 5G connectivity in my manufacturing plant. Are you operating the installation from Tel Aviv, or does someone come into my plant? What actually happens? What takes place?
Okay, so I'll just say first that us as OneLayer, we do not provide networks. We come in as a service on top of an existing network and we give you security elements. But let's say I was, right? Let's say that for the purpose of this call, I'm an integrator that builds network for someone like you in Georgia. So in that case, the answer is yes. This integrator can come in. He can build a network for you. He can also build a network here in Israel and make sure that these two networks can be connected and information can be transmitted from one another. Having said that, going back to my comments from the beginning regarding the advantages of 5G, I think the key benefit here, which is important to be, I guess, the main takeaway, is that this type of technology really improves the connectivity inside the factory, right? So it's not that it completely changes the ecosystem regarding how you connect one factory to another. You can still use cable for these purposes. But the real benefit of 5G is that when it gives you amazing wireless coverage that is in a high standard across your facility, you can start testing so many use cases that up until that moment were complete sci-fi. So the advantage is to really take the manufacturing facility to the next, let's say, level internally. The connectivity between those the other facilities, it's a great benefit of that. But the value really shows in what you can do internally in a factory or a warehouse or anything else.
Liron, can you give me some examples of some of the key industries that would benefit the most from your platform?
Sure. So I'm saying that I think, manufacturing is amazing. Other than manufacturing, there is other verticals that can benefit from the technology. I think one that is very dominant and is much more advanced than other verticals is the utility vertical. We see tons of smart meters that needs to be connected via wireless so they can collect data regarding energy consumption. We can see the need to remote control power grids. All of these have led the biggest utility organizations within the US to adopt private LTE, actually, one generation before 5G, for their own usage. And this way they become, for starters, independent of the mobile network operators. So they're in charge of the network. They're not affected by downtime that can occur from a public perspective, but also they can connect tens of thousands of devices. So I guess utilities is the first one that we see that really is doing this type of deployments in a very large scale and have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of devices already connected. But other than that, we see tons of other industries too. We start to see it in airports, at ports, hospitals that are adopting the technology. So it really, I guess that's the beauty of inventing technology that is relevant for the transmission layer. It's not specific for an actual use case. Everyone can benefit from better bandwidth, lower latency, better coverage. So they can all take this type of technology and look at the relevant use cases for them and start having them running on top of these networks.
Very good. Do you have any final points you'd like to be able to tell us as we wrap up this segment?
Yeah, I would just say that from my perspective, one of the things that are still missing for these networks, which is exactly why we formed OneLayer, is that while it gives you tons of benefits for an organization, it is still evolving, and it's very, very challenging to understand the state of your network as you implement it. So if you want to understand which devices you have running on top of this network that are taking the advantage of this technology, it's a challenge at the moment because you're so used to it from the IT and OT environment when you can tell that's a laptop, right? That's an industrial machine, that's a SCADA, that's you always want to keep track of your devices. And here the tools to do so are still lacking. So what we tend to do is that once you have this network deployed, we come in with our own product that analyzes all the traffic in your network and showcases what the devices are. It allows you to segment between the devices so they can act only as you want them to. So it's a lot of additional capabilities that really make the standard of security of this network much, much higher, much more resembles what people are used to from OT environments.
Liron, thank you very much for being on the show. Give us your website one last time for the late audience, and we will bid you farewell.
Sure thing. So our website is onelayer.com. Thank you so much, guys, for having me, and I hope you have a happy Easter or Passover, wherever you are.
You as well. You as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, folks, this is a fascinating story. It's going to be posted on our website, Jacket Media Co. or manufacturingtalkradio.com, and tune into our other podcasts, which we do have several others. We also have a magazine, an e-zine that we call Manufacturing Outlook, which is all about manufacturing. Comes out every month. Fascinating stories, great articles, great guest writers. So, and it's free. You sign up and you will get your e-zine in your mailbox every month like clockwork. So thank you all. Tim, you got to do something about the green. It just doesn't do you well.
It was good for St. Patrick's Day, but
you missed it by a couple of weeks. So thank you all, and we'll see you at our next show. Thank you. Bye-bye.